It's been 7 months since Disc 147 published any worthwhile content, so I thought I'd try to live a normal life in the time he was gone. Might be better this way, to leave that life behind and live a simpler life. Hopefully this date'll go okay. Guess she's not here yet. Nobody cares about me. What's the point of going on anyway? It's not like Dunmachi is gonna get a 4th season anyway.
Leave me alone, MC. I'm not in the mood. MC, I told you already. I do not want to do anything right now. I'm too sad. Just let go. You know? That does sound good. Yeah, that sounds like fun. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, you know what? Let's just do that. That sounds cool. Let's do it.
Visual novel adaptations are always an interesting topic of discussion. A lot of the time, a show won't have enough episodes to cover everything that was in the visual novel, and will usually produce an overpriced, glorified ad for the original product. But sometimes, once in a blue moon, one will come out that is faithful to the source material, and adapts every route so no one gets left out or feels cheated. A miracle of sorts. I can never seem to escape AIC. Whether it's Gunsword or Oh My Goddess, they are always there making high quality anime. But when I saw a picture of Amagami SS, I thought, wow, this looks plain and generic. This is going to be absolute trash. But thankfully, to my surprise, that wasn't the case. Amagami SS follows a high school student called Junichi Tachibana, who is stood up by his date on Christmas Eve, which ends up with him developing a case of depression, a hatred for Christmas, and hesitant to fall in love ever again. We are then introduced to our heroine, that in their own special way helps Junichi break out of his depression, gives meaning to Christmas, and fall in love. Amagami SS follows a high school student called Junichi Tachibana, who is stood up by his date on Christmas Eve, which ends up with him developing a case of depression, a hatred for Christmas, and hesitant to fall in love ever again. Which we are then introduced to our heroine, that in their own special way helps Junichi break out of his depression, gives meaning to Christmas, and fall in love again. It's short, sweet, and leaves a warm, fuzzy feeling in your heart. I've seen a lot of romance anime in my time, and out of most of them, this had one of the most natural love stories that felt as real to life as possible. The natural progression of the love between each pairing is well paced and never felt rushed or forced, although you might not be able to handle the extremely cheesy lines that Junichi delivers during each confession. It does have some typical tropes like the one weird best friend character, but despite that, they even give him some dignity and not make him one-dimensional. He has his own story that, sure, isn't fully fleshed out, but I think adding nuances to the characters like him and the other side characters made for a better overall experience. Some arcs are definitely better than others, and it shows with how they either start or how they end. Fumiko's arc has the most lackluster ending out of all of them, and while it's still a good arc, it is left to be desired just based on the payoff at the end. You could interpret Amagami as the ultimate Christmas anime without the heavy focus on Christmas, where while the show's world is revolved around Christmas, and plays more into the characters' personal lives and what makes some of their most treasured memories by the end of each story, mostly from Junichi's perspective. Speaking of which, Junichi is quite a special protagonist amongst other visual novel adaptations, where usually the protagonist has multiple girls to focus on, but never changes personality-wise and acts the same way throughout the show. So unlike a lot of other visual novel protagonists, depending on who the main heroine is, Junichi acts and reacts like a different person each time. From a really endearing big brother type, to a complete and utter simp that I have absolutely no tolerance for. He's surprisingly a very patient person where he'll just listen and let the other person talk before he says anything, even when he acts immature and forgetful sometimes. At his core, Junichi is technically the same person, but the girls change him over the course of their route due to their contrasting personalities. In a way, it reflects real life in that sense, in which depending on your partner, you'll grow and shape into a different person, for better and for worse. Fun fact, did you know that Amagami means nibble in Japanese? So those scenes where you were wondering what the deeper meaning behind why Junichi was kissing the back of Haruka's knee was? Well, that's the reason why. As stated earlier, Amagami Super Simp was animated by AIC, who have quite the impressive catalogue under their belt. The art style, while on the surface looks fairly plain, it contrasts well with the characters and the writing. All characters don't really act over the top. Sometimes. And it all feels very grounded and down to earth. They don't go on any grand adventures like in Kaguya-sama to go see the fireworks together, but instead they go for a more character-focused drama, where Junichi alone through sheer willpower overcomes his own faults and gets the girl in the end. You can't help but respect the guy for that. The show has a really pleasant soundtrack attached to it, but it is unfortunate that despite that, or through my own fault, it is quite forgettable without listening to each song in isolation. It's not all doom and gloom though. It does suit the scenes that they're played in, which is a plus when compared to a lot of other shows in the same genre. I love this one specific piano track that plays during the highlights of the show. The openings and endings I remember fondly and occasionally like to hum to myself while I work. This time around, I have nothing to say about whether or not you should watch it in dub or not, because there isn't one. Despite being licensed by Sentai Filmworks, they never got around to dubbing it. It's for the best though. This way I don't have to hear someone's failed attempt at trying to make Saya sound cute, or have Kaoru's charisma without making my skin crawl. I'll briefly mention Season 2, just because it's worth noting that even though most of the roots have happy endings, Season 2 manages to expand on each story by putting the couples into situations that grow and develop their relationships, which leads to a very satisfying ending to their journeys. But then you make a sequel that fails to capture the heart of the original, that has a new cast of characters so flat, so bland and uninteresting that it's embarrassing to say it comes from the same director, that tries to add elements that don't fit and are so out of left field that doesn't even feel like the same show anymore. I'd hate to think something like that actually exists. Bringing this review to a close, Amagami SS is a fantastically written romantic comedy that after over 10 years, it still holds up and stands above the rest of the shows that came out after it. It satisfies the needs and wants of its audience by exploring every romantic route from the visual novel, and stands above most other visual novel adaptations that go through the lazy route of just ending at a generic harem ending. If you're looking for a unique and heartwarming romance anime, I cannot recommend Amagami SS enough. Unfortunately for us, it never got licensed in Australia, because we never get anything nice. Although if you live in the States, I'm certain you'll have no problem securing a copy. I know this video is late for Christmas, but nonetheless, I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas. Here's to 2021, and I'll see you all when I see ya.
世界中の人たちが今日この良き日に幸せでありますように。
僕たちみたいにね。
I really was acting childish. That's right. It was foolish to think I could live a normal life. On that day 8 years ago, I wished for this to happen. What's the point of going back to normal again?
I really should thank you, MC. You've really helped me along on the journey.
So, let's go. Those 200 subs aren't gonna earn themselves. Just watch. My journey to becoming the greatest anime reviewer starts now.